The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Friday.
Is it really?
Yeah, TGIF. Oh, what a week, huh?
It's something.
And we had quite the show Wednesday, and we didn't get to a few things that we will get to today.
Well, it's always interesting to say the least. Well, the first thing is Joe Macy,
Yeah.
our city corporate counsel, finally came out with a decision.
Yeah.
Which is an opinion.
An opinion.
And opinions are like rectums.
That's right.
Everyone has one, and they all stink.
That's right.
But he says that Josh Hetzler can serve on the Fall River School Committee because he was elected under the old charter and under the old rules. But in 2019, he won't be able to run because he'll be under the new rules unless he wants to leave the fire department.
Well, yeah, look. As you said, it's an opinion and it may be challenged, as it says in the article. And, you know, I don't agree with his opinion, personally. But as I said, I also don't agree with the charter.
Right, exactly.
I believe Mr. Hetzler should be able to serve this term and any other term he's elected, because this is one of the problems with the charter.
Right.
That the charter precludes, it's actually discriminatory. We've approved a charter that discriminates against public employees. And I don't know why somebody that's a public employee, you don't lose your right to be an American, to vote, to run for office. I'm surprised they let them keep the right to vote. You know, they probably should have added that, by the way. You know, Mike, Augie, all you guys out there that love this charter, you probably should have thought of that. In addition to doing that, you should have said that no employee of the city can vote in the city election. We can only vote in state. We can only vote in state and federal elections. You might as well. You can't run for office. Why can't you run for office? Let the people decide. Whether you agree or disagree, as we've said a million times on this show, whether you agree or disagree with who gets elected, you have to live with it because it's the people's choice. And that's what this government is about. It's about the people. Our Constitution, state Constitution, we said a million times, you know, all politicians are answerable at all times to us, the people. We the people. And the people elected Mr. Hetzler. And any charter that says he's not elected, but then getting back to Joe's opinion, I don't agree with it, because the fact is he's saying, well, this is excluded and this is that, oh, and because of this and because of that. Well, the charter went into effect immediately. He said this is the only provision of the charter that didn't go into effect. Well, we also have other questions. Can the mayor serve as the chairman of the school committee? That's another question. If you read that, you want to say, there's some interpretations that say, look, he's collecting a salary from the city. He can't serve. Leo Pelletier, as far as I know, still has the job with the city, but that's an easy enough fix for him. He can quit that job. He's going to probably make more on the city council. But the fact is, this charter, we get back to the charter which we oppose, this charter's a mess. It completely disrupts government, and this opinion, to me, is just, they're justifying it to allow him to serve now, but they're also taking away his right to run for election, for re-election, and everybody else's right from this day forward if you're employed by the city. And to me, that's the height of discrimination against, people. You don't lose your right to be an American because you're a public employee.
Well, according to this charter, you do.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, you all know what we think of this charter.
No, I have no idea. None whatsoever. But, you know, it's going to definitely be interesting, because another thing that this charter requires, and I was having a phone conversation when you arrived with somebody, according to this charter, the mayor must approve or appoint every new hire in the city. So we're going to hire a secretary. The mayor's got to approve or appoint that person, which then means the city council has to approve them.
Mm-hmm.
And that means they must be a resident of the city of Fall River. The one thing this charter has that I actually like is the residency requirement.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. But they ignore it because...
But they can't ignore it. And yes, the mayor's trying to ignore it now with Gen Andrade, who
And we'll have another legal opinion on that shortly.
Yeah, we'll have another opinion on that shortly, because she's not a city resident.
The legal opinion is in the mail.
Yep. She's not a city resident, and therefore her appointment would need to be approved by the city council, and she must establish the city residency. According to her paperwork filed with the state in the Office of Campaign and Political Finance, she lives in Somerset, Massachusetts, which everybody knows. Therefore, with the city residency requirement, in fact, in place in the city, because Joe Macy said, every aspect of this charter is in effect now except for 4.3, which deals with Josh Hetzler and other elected officials.
And we reiterate here for everybody out there watching, Joe Macy is not God speaking to Moses.
That's right. It's an opinion.
The Ten Commandments. This is an opinion, and he says it. It's an opinion.
Even in his opinion.
And it can be challenged, and it should be challenged in many cases. I don't know how you can just carve out one particular thing, but that's his opinion. Well, you know, he ran against the old rules, but the fact is he's not being sworn in
until the new rules are in effect.
Until this new charter is in effect when he gets sworn into office. So that creates a legal quandary. And again, we got a charter that immediately has already got 3 or 4 different items that could be litigated, and it's going to cost people money. And they may stand, don't get me wrong, because this is one of the problems with government. When they say you can't fight City Hall, somebody's going to have to take money out of their pocket to protect their own rights rather than government doing it. Because the government passed this thing, and Joe's rendering an opinion, but they're not going to go to court. It's going to be the person. They're going to tell, you know, I guess Mr. Hetzler got his own attorney. Now the person behind him has got an attorney, and everybody's got attorneys, and the only people that are doing okay on this are apparently the lawyers.
The lawyers, as always. The only people that make a buck on the deal is the lawyers. But the interesting part about it is that all throughout the charter process, Joe Macy says he doesn't represent the Charter Commission. Now, all of a sudden, he represents the Charter Commission? Yep. Let the Charter Commission go hire their own attorney to defend their abortion of government.
Well, what's the Charter Committee's opinion of this situation? Where are they now? They won. They had their big party waving their hands. We won. We won. Not the citizens won, or this is a great charter. We won. We won. And, well, where are you? This is the charter. Come on, I want to hear it. Let's hear it from the Charter Commission. What is your opinion of can Mr. Hetzler serve or not? They don't even want to enter into that debate. You know why? Because it'll shine the light on the fact of what a disaster that they passed and they created.
Exactly.
They've taken, and as we said, and was said in a Minority Report, they removed the rights of the people with this charter. And right now, within minutes of the election being over, we had an issue with this charter taking the rights away from an individual, taking the rights away from Mr. Hetzler. And even under this circumstance, when somebody says, well, you know, he can serve his term, which he should be able to because he was elected by the people, not by the charter. The charter doesn't vote. But the opinion goes on to say from this day forward, he can't run again. Or any other person that's employed by the city can run for office. That is absolutely flies in the face of the American system where everybody has a right to be part of the process. It's discriminatory. Matter of fact, just gave me an idea. Maybe I'll write the ACLU and see if they think this is a discriminatory charter. That might be a good idea.
Yeah, well, you know, the interesting part about it is, and Joe Macy pointed out very clearly, even if this was struck down, okay, the rest of the charter remains in effect because they put a severability clause in here. So you would actually have to have the entire charter declared unconstitutional for the whole thing to be struck down. And don't declare this a win, Mike Maioza and Chris Bartley and every other member of the Charter Commission, because you know what? Because of the fact that there are now legal challenges against something you created, and you didn't even create it, you hired some moron to create it from the Collins Center because you wanted to abdicate your responsibility. And don't give me this is sour grapes because we won and you lost. No, because it has nothing to do with that. The voice of the people spoke. This is our charter. But now if our charter is struck down because you were not smart enough or did not do enough due diligence to make sure that it was correct, this is your fault. And personally, my opinion is every dime spent on defense of this charter by the legal department should be charged directly to the charter commissioners and have them paid out of their pockets because they abdicated their responsibility. And if we were able to do that, I would want to see that.
Very good point, CJ. Very good point. I tend to agree with that position. But, you know, this is the problem. The problem is that we have, and you got to blame the people in many ways. Our political system has evolved to where the lunatics are running the asylum. This charter gives the politicians complete power. Look what's happening all over. But just look at this. I think somebody said Mr. Hetzler was on the radio or someplace, and he was talking about he's glad he can serve, and this should be removed from the charter, and he's right. The whole charter should be removed, actually. But how can it be removed? Let's go back and let's go back and look at this. And I don't have the charter in front of me, but I got a fairly good memory. I believe he says he wants this removed. Well, the next time the charter is reviewed, it won't be up to Mr. Hetzler, you, or I, or any of the citizens to review it. If I remember correctly, the review of the charter will be undertaken by a committee of 7 people, 4 of whom are appointed by the city council, 2 of which have to be city councilors, 2 members appointed by the mayor, and 1, which now again is a political issue, is a quandary, by the vice chair of the school committee. So if you want to remove something in a charter that has to do with the school committee, how can someone from the school committee appoint someone? That's kind of a conflict of interest, don't you think?
I think everyone. I think the whole charter.
So this charter is an absolute disaster. Why? Because it's allowing politicians to make all the decisions and make all of it. You've got 4 people that are appointed by councilors, 2 by the mayor, and 1 by the school committee. Nobody by the people. Nobody's elected. And in other areas, they talk about, well, we'll have someone who was elected in 2015. Really? In the year 3015, are we going to have somebody from 2015 on a committee, which is the one and only time we ever elected charter commissioners, which should automatically be the way we do it because the people should speak. So this charter is a disaster. The whole system has been turned upside down on every level. All we got to do is look at what happened in Attleboro. We got a mayor that's a state rep, and he's going to keep 2 jobs, and he admits, I'm gonna double dip. I don't care. I'm going to keep 2 jobs. You're going to be the mayor? Well, make up your mind. You're going to be the mayor or state rep. Guess what? These people are out of control. They give themselves pay raises. They want to run everything. And whose fault is it? It's our fault. And you know something? Maybe now that this is over, maybe it's time over the course of the winter to gear up citizens throughout the state to demand a constitutional convention so we can change. It's the only way we're going to be able to change this state. We should demand a constitutional convention and then get back to all the things they said we couldn't have that we wanted, like electing judges, like imposing term limits and all the things that the political insiders protected themselves with and took the people out of it in direct violation of our Constitution. It's about time maybe we did something to change this as people in the state.
Right.
Maybe we should go statewide, city and town, and try to get the people because it's getting ridiculous. Maybe he can run for county commissioner and 5 other offices too, and then he can have absolute power. I mean, it's just they're out of control, and all we have to do is look at our own delegation. Gave themselves a giant pay raise, and then every one of them voted against a tax holiday for us. They don't care. They do whatever they want, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be by our own Constitution in this Commonwealth. They are supposed to be at all times answerable to us. And you know what they say to that one? They go like this: pick a finger. That's what they do. So that's exactly what they do when it comes to that.
Yeah, and like you were saying about Paul Heroux, who is a state representative. He's got a full-time job as a state representative and now a full-time job as a mayor. And he said that he doesn't want to quit his job for 14 months as state rep because he wants to complete the projects he started out on. Well, you can complete them outside. But people are buying this line of bull.
Yeah, they complete the projects and everything up there. Everything up there takes like 5 years to get through the State House.
Right.
I mean, I went down and I actually proposed a bill that Representative Sylvia actually put forth, but I was the one who gave it to him. They redrafted it and stuff to help people on fixed incomes with their prescription drug costs, which was even before they began to move generics up tiers and make costly. That thing's been floundering around up there for 3 or 4 years now. I went up, a year and a half ago to testify on it. It's still wallowing somewhere. You'll never see that because it's going to help people who work their whole life for a living.
God forbid they do that.
God forbid that happens. But a pay raise for them goes flying through that chamber in about 35 seconds. All in favor of a pay raise? Aye, aye, aye. Yep. I think only the Republicans, the few Republicans up there said no. But it was an obligatory no because they knew they were going to get the, and some of them refused the pay raise actually to their credit.
Right.
But when anything they want goes through like crap through a goose. But anything that's
I was just thinking the same thing.
anything else takes forever. You want to complete your stuff. Well, you know something, you're the mayor of the city, you'll have a state representative that will replace you. You mean you can't advocate for
well,
what
he
you put
also
up there?
doesn't want to have a special election for a state representative because it's
no.
unfair. It's unfair to the candidate. Give me a break.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
you just want your $100,000 plus from Attleboro and your $100,000 plus from the state, and you want to lounge back and take the best of both worlds and put them in your pocket.
And look what we started when a mayor in Braintree gave a police chief the ability to circumvent the retirement system. Everybody else in the state has a cap on how much you make. You can't be retired and work a full-time job, and you're gonna lose your pension. But the police chief by a guy, by the way, as we reminded you in case you forgot, this mayor was appointed by the governor to basically cut benefits for the MBTA.
That's right.
He was there to say, well, why are we spending so much money on a retirement system? And he's trying to give the shaft to the people in the MBTA, people who worked their whole life for a pension. And he turns around and goes back to his hometown, and what does he get? He gets his buddy, the police chief. They pass special legislation to allow him to retire at full retirement, come back and work for full pay, full time as the police chief. And then they wonder, well, why is the retirement system getting murdered? Well, this guy's getting 80% of his former pay, and he's getting 100% now with no penalty. So he's basically making 180% of what he made previously. Nobody cares. Why? It's only the taxpayers' money. It's only the retirement system that's getting screwed. We don't care, because what will happen later on, after we give all these special benefits to people, the retirement system will be in a tank, and guess what they'll do? They're not going to take the pension away from that police chief. They're going to cut everybody's benefits. But guess what? Even if he gets a 40% cut in his benefits, he still was making 180% of what he was supposed to make. So he's still up 140 the way I do the math. He's not going to worry about that pension cut with all the money he's making, because he's probably making $200,000 a year right now, and he'll stay there till he, till he croaks. So, I mean, this is what's going on. What is wrong? Why should you be angry? Why do we have these citizens groups that talk about how they just rape and pillage the taxpayer? And what happens? It's a trickle down. We see it on a state level, we see it on the federal level, and now we see it in Fall River. What happens? Our city council raises the tax factor. Screw the residential taxpayer. We don't care about them.
Screw you, taxpayer!
That's it. And what's the best time? What is the best screw the taxpayer window? Right after an election. Because then they stick it to everybody, because they figure these nitwits will forget in 2 years. We can do everything we want to them for the next 6 months, and then we'll have a year and a half of we won't do anything, and they'll all forget what we did. 7 days after they changed the tax factor, with absolutely no consideration to the taxpayer, and the fact that get your water bill with your gigantic, as told by the mayor. The mayor went on the radio and said, expect a huge water bill, but it's not my fault. It's the city council's fault.
No, it's not even the city council's vote. It's your vote, the voter.
That's right. You voted the bond.
You voted for that
But
bond.
he blamed the city council because the council voted to put it on the,
That's right.
Yeah, so he blamed the council indirectly to give him, because he didn't trust the citizens to make the right decision, and obviously...
He was right.
He wasn't in favor of the charter either, so he was right. They weren't paying attention. But the fact is that he went on and said, expect a gigantic water bill. Expect a maximum increase to 2.5. And now, not only that, we got another increase over 2.5 because the factors changed.
That's right.
And we've got to pay all those TIFs. And guess what? In the not too distant future, they'll be looking for a $300 million debt exclusion for the high school. And who's paying that? And no Vaseline.
That's right. And I keep telling people, I just said it this morning to some people on social media. I said, people are looking to sell their properties. And then one of the people turned around and said, oh, well, then why are real estate brokers having such a field day? Why are they making so much money? Because people are selling their properties.
That's right. And it's crazy, because when you look at it, and what gets me is they're ridiculous, and people don't even pay attention.
No, they don't.
Oh, it's only $30. Oh, it's only $20. Well, if it's $50 for the water bill a quarter, that's $200 a year. Then it's $30 for the tax rate. Then it's something else for the debt exclusion. Then it's by the time, figure it out over the last 5 years with all the increases you've got, and add that. And I know it because, I pay the bills.
And this is why I said before, what we should do is, you know how they have a Proposition 2.5 override?
Yeah.
I want to have a Proposition 2.5 underride, which is legal.
That's right.
Cut $5 million right off of the top of the city budget, right off of the taxation. And they said, oh, we'll lose police, we'll lose fire. People can't do that. No, you lose police and fire because you want to lose police and fire. You can lose other services that we don't necessarily have to have, like $60,000 a year people who do absolutely nothing, $80,000 a year people who do absolutely nothing. Political hacks, which get jobs that you do nothing. Maybe you should start curtailing government. Mr. Mayor, you stood for 2 election cycles that you believed in smaller government, yet you've expanded government so much since you've taken office. When are you going to uphold that promise?
Didn't he say during this campaign that he didn't feel the necessity to have a chief of staff?
Yes, he did.
And he appoints his former, or whether it's legal or illegal under our charter, he appointed his former campaign manager. And I like that. It says, Mayor's campaign manager announces she's the new chief of staff. Nice headline. Then it says Pereira did not respond to a request for comment. Of course he won't, because it'll shine a light on the fact that, hey, here comes the payback.
That's right.
Now she's getting a job,
and this is what the voters don't understand.
And the other campaign, the other part of the Siamese twins on the campaign, she's going to be getting a job shortly too.
Yeah, according to our inside sources.
Yes.
Okay, Faust Fiore is being transferred to CDA. Monica Souza is going to take the job that Faust Fiore once held as a special assistant, and now Gen Andrade is going to be chief of staff. So again, political hacks getting political appointments, which all must be approved under the new charter by the city council, and you must be a city resident. Now, Faust Fiore's been in this job for over 2 years, and he still hasn't met the requirements under the ordinance, which says after 18 months you must be a city resident. Because this mayor just flagrantly violates the law. Flagrantly. And now if he's moving him to CDA, you've got a bigger problem, because this same situation occurred when Perry Long was made the CDA employee, and he wasn't a city resident. He was from Westport. And Steve Camara made a big stink, but Steve Camara was found another job somewhere, allegedly, because of that big stink in order to prevent a problem. But this is what we have.
And we wonder why things don't get done.
Yeah.
We just look at the appointments in DCM, DPW, whatever. First they get a guy whose resume was so bad that he didn't even get the job because we exposed it on this show. Then the next guy they appoint, who was an ice house guard or something, and we went over his resume on the show. He got the job, and then he was demoted. He got a small pay, but and we got another. Now we hear this guy's going too. That's another rumor that's coming through that he's going to be going.
Right. Yeah, it's a rumor that.
And so how do we don't hire competent people? I mean, with all due respect to Gen Andrade, what is her qualifications to be chief of staff besides being a political freaking ally of the mayor, to be his campaign manager? Number one, let's all remember that the position of chief of staff was just a title affixed to secretary when a previous mayor's girlfriend was occupying a position.
That's right.
So to give her a pay raise, they turned the janitor's job into a sanitary engineer. See, they changed the title to give you a pay raise with it. So that was created. Chief of staff's position. You know, this isn't the president of the United States who needs a chief of staff to deal with his cabinet that's running every phase of a nation. You know, your chief of staff for a mayor, Carlton Viveris, we had twice the number of city employees when Carlton Viveris was the mayor, and he had a secretary. No chief of staff. And then we get all these other things, press secretary and this and that.
Special assistants and all this.
Special assistants for what? You know, what are you, you know, if you told me you were the mayor of New York City, which is the size of some states, I could say, well, maybe you need a little help. But come on.
Well, that's true. Hey, before we go off the air here in a few minutes, less than a few minutes, a few seconds, I want to congratulate low-price Lenny Kaplan. Senate Bill 2098 was passed, and Governor Baker signed it into law. Lenny Kaplan has had a bridge named after him. The bridge which goes from the Battleship Cove parking lot over to the visitor center, that walking bridge where everyone feeds the ducks from, that is now the Lenny Kaplan Memorial Bridge.
And he will rent us the flags.
And he'll rent us the flags to put on that bridge. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. I'm going to tell you.
Next week, we've only got one show.
Next week, we've only got one show, so we'll see you then. And remember, stay angry, people.